part 2 of my brew making for the HAMS Club. That's the sound that every brewer hates to hear. And even though every brewer hates to hear it, for me, it's the start of the second cycle of my brewing. On the first video, we went over my boiled egg, or my brewed egg. Today, I'm going to show you how that beer gets to tap and into the cup. Whenever my tap runs dry, I simply clean this keg. I'm going to give it a nice rinse with OxyClean. After that, I'll put a little bit of Lugal solution in it, wash that out well, take it over, put carbon dioxide into it, and then take it outside to fill it with beer from my primary. This is my coin keg. I got this at Home Depot. You see I've got a 20-pound CO2 tank in here. I advise the larger size tanks because they're just as expensive to fill as the smaller ones. If you do manage your CO2 correctly, this tank has been in service for over a year without being filled. You'll see my techniques doesn't require much CO2 from this to actually deliver the beer. I can do this at a much faster, more rapid pace because I know it's already sterile, good beer is in here. So today, and since I know I have a very clean keg and I know that I'm going to the exact same type of beer, I'm going to skip the oxy stage step. So all I'm really going to do is give this thing a great rinsing with hot water and then do a little bit of Lugal solution. This stuff's pretty expensive. You see I've got about this much used in the bottle, and that's been about 2 years of use, so it goes a long, long way. You only need a light tea color. But this stuff is, don't use regular iodine you get from the store. It's actually toxic, so if you have any residual left in your tank, that's bad. This stuff, if a little bit is left over, it's just iodine like you would take an iodine supplement. It's actually good for you in small quantities. So when I rinse my kegs, I want to make sure I get all the prior yeast out, nice and clear. And I just use a knife and make sure that I clear both of the long tube and the short tube with clean water. Periodically, I also use a little food-grade silicone grease to lubricate this O-ring. It's a White Lightning Crystal, high-performance, clear grease, totally waterproof, non-staining, non-toxic, odor-free, biodegradable. Alright, so now I'm going to put just a small amount. I don't really measure it, but it's basically about a quarter teaspoon or so of Lugal solution. Put some hot water in there. I don't go fill it all the way up. I only fill it about a half a gallon or so. That keeps the concentration relatively high. And gives a good swish around in all directions. Always pull on the pressure release cap upside down. That squirts a little bit of the Lugal solution down around the top. It does need to be in there at least a good 30 seconds to get enough contact time. Iced tea is the best way I can explain it. Maybe you can see it when I pour it out here a little bit. The color should look about like iced tea. That's all you need to get a good sterilization with. Alright guys, this is my PARTII serving station. A separate tank here with a bottle filler on it. And this tank has got, in addition to a bottle filler, in case I ever decide to fill a bottle up for competition, it's also got a connector so I can fill a tank. At this particular stage, what I'm going to do, I always store my CO2 turned off, so I'm going to turn it on. And all I'm going to do is just give it a squirt of air. Doesn't take much. Turn my air back off. Drain the rest of it out. And put the cap back on top. At the end of the last video, we ended up with a cube of beer that was put in the creek. Well, after the creek, until it got to about 80 degrees, I put it into this refrigerator. See in here I've got an additional supply. This was an old vending machine that I've just converted over into my serving case. I'm now going to put up on a chair to give it some altitude to rack it. I've used a chair that spins this way, and that way I can very gently control which side is facing up, so when I do the opening and I rack it, I don't spill any beer. the same time, I'm going to prepare my next fermenter. Basically, I use a tall 6-gallon bucket, piece of tape over the hole, and then I'm going to give this a rinse. And I also have 2 lids that I use. These are reusable. You can buy these at a public store. One's going to have a little small hole in the center of it. It'll be the first cap, and then this is the outside cap for the sealing. I do mean quickly because I'm actually going to be using these turkey basters. They are Kenlon oven bags, 24 by 30 turkey size. I buy them in quantity of 100 from a food wholesale distributor. Drop in the bucket, lay the neck over the top here. That's just going to be able to hold my rack line in place when I fill this thing up. Clean and sanitize my Auto Prime racker hands. I've got a sterilized, still wet with a little sand star that's been rinsed off of it. I'm going to open up. There we go. Put my prime in at an angle. Still using sterile hands and a bag that hasn't been opened yet. Snake this into the bag. Use this bar to hold it in place. Start my prime at the very top. Get the flow going. I got about a gallon in there. I'm going to pick the plastic bag up and set it back down in. Starting to get air, so now I'm going to start to use this. I'm going to go all the way down, watching the top of my rack until I just see a little bit of crud coming through. Look at the color coming through that. There is not any trub whatsoever. Crystal clear. Looking down into the bottle, you can see how crystal clear that beer is. Saffel US number 5 dry yeast. Sterilize scissors and sterilize the pack before. Really probably don't need to do that. Open the bag up. Open up my lid and just drop that directly in. Now remember, I'm coming off with a cool liquid here. So, and I've got this suspended where it's actually adding air to it. So that's why I'm not clamping tight down on this bag just yet. Just leaving it loosely. And now's the point where I'm going to lift the bag up slightly and set it back down. And that just allows the bag to not develop any kinks, so it will fill up fully. And I'll let that go. This is my primary. It's set to 17 degrees centigrade. Always set there. Although I do have a couple of different layers, I can manipulate temperatures. Inside you see I've got 2 that are fermented. This is the last one, so it's the one that's going to come out. It's ready to be kegged. Take the temperature probe out of that. Now I'm going to carry this outside. Okay, this is the beer that just came out. This is the corny keg that we just filled up with carbon dioxide and clean. Lid's still on it. Take my cap, my sealing cap lid off. Put the cap of that onto that. Keep it. Take my second off, lay it over top, take and discard or reuse your zip tie. The yeast sticks to the bag, so it's not going to come out and contaminate your beer. So I put it on the lip right there, and I slowly drain it directly into the keg. Now when the foam gets to the top, if you fill it fast enough, that's okay, it's to be expected. And what you're going to do is keep pouring and let that foam come out over the top of the keg. Here comes the foam out of the top. And you see I just let it keep going. That plastic's going to keep the liquid going in. And that foam coming out the top. Go. Nice slow pace. And just like at the top, the yeast at the bottom of this bag is sticking to the bag. And there we have it. While there's still foam, if you can, put the cap in. And the reason is that foam all contains carbon dioxide, so now there's no oxygen in this at all. My bag out. You know, as I start to have a clean bucket again, no washing to do there. tie this in a knot. And that's all that was left over at the bottom. And I rinse the outside, all the beer off. It's ready to go and be carbonated. At this stage, I'm going to take the red one. It's got the hole in it. Grab the top. Shake it around. Get that last bit of oxygen in there and get all your yeast totally mixed up. And then put the red, smaller, around to hold this up in the center. Next, your zip tie. I zip tie it about 2 inches at the top, and just till it's tight, and that is enough to allow air, carbon dioxide to escape, nothing to get in. Secondary seal on the top of that, and that's now ready to go into the primary for fermentation. Now the primary will do its work. And that's it. This gets cleaned up, filled up with OxyClean, and stored outside for the next cycle. This is an art, guys. Carbonating your keg is something, if you do too much, you're going to get foamy beer and it's going to be a pain. If you do not enough, you're going to have to wait 2 days before you can drink this beer. I'll be drinking this beer tonight. So the way I'm going to do that, turning it on, I've got 45 psi, higher than most people do. I go through the out, not the in. That's going to pump bubbles down to the bottom and back through to the top. Okay, 50 psi. Now I'm going to let air out of the top. Alright, that's clearing any possible oxygen that got in there. And creating bubbles coming through. Now because I'm doing this at such a high pressure, it's carbonating it fairly rapidly. Cleared enough of it, now I'm going to start rocking and rolling. As long as I'm hearing bubbles going in, and you can hear them, it's going to keep throwing carbonation into this. So 2, 3, 4 minutes, still putting a lot of bubbles into there, and now's my checkpoint. Okay, my checkpoint is to turn the air and my CO2 off completely. Alright, now, watching this regulator, I'm at 44 psi, I continue rocking. And you'll see it'll start to drop. Alright, it's now down to 35. And what I'm checking here is what the pressure actually is on the inside. Okay, and remember I'm still going to want a little bit more pressure than that's going to be in my serving keg, because my serving keg is going to continue to cool this further than the primary. This is only at 17 degrees centigrade. I'm going to go down to about 36. Actually about 32 the first day, or 33 the first day, then back up to 36 to 38 for serving. The first day is basically I'm doing a micro cold crash in my serving keg to get the very last bit of yeast out of this. Alright, so it dropped down and we are at about 20 psi. And that's a pretty good number for me. As soon as it's not dropping, I can live with that number. You just saw in about 3 minutes a complete forced carbonation of this keg. Everything else will occur in the corning over the next 24 hours. We've now gone full circle. We're back where we had our empty beer. Alright, I have got my carbon dioxide line turned off. Okay, you want to do that because you don't want the beer going back into your gas keg. And then I will connect the gas to the in line. That goes on to the out, of course. And it goes back into my serving keg. Now I turn the temperature down the first day to where this is on the maximum cold. Alright, that's going to give that CO2 a chance to equalize. Because remember, colder beer absorbs more carbon dioxide. So I put 20 psi in it. Now as it continues to drop, that 20 will settle back down to about 11. When it gets close to about 11, probably in about an hour, I will turn that cock valve back on and allow this keg to start to pressurize and equalize the other one. At the same time, in about an hour, I will draw off about half a cup of beer to get the very bottom yeast out of the system and flush the line. After that, I'm serving until the next time. You've now seen how I make my beer. Full cycle was 3 hours and 30 minutes with the boil day and the serving day.